A lot of people are going through this right now. I don't think it's contagious, but through the microphone it's amplified, so you might all hear it. This is a true story. All my stories are true stories, and this takes place, it's a little different than the ones you've heard so far. This takes place in the kingdom of Nepal, in the city of Kathmandu, which has been my home away from home. Since 1979, I have been returning to Nepal to live there. And I have to tell you that there's still places in the world where people hurt themselves to prove their love for God. And one of these places is Kathmandu, every March, during the annual festival in honor of Lord Shiva. Now, in the Hindu religion, there's three great gods. And Shiva is, in many ways, the most powerful. He's the God who simultaneously creates and destroys the universe, creating it with a little two-headed drum and destroying it with a flame. And every year, sadhus, holy men and holy women, from all over the Indian subcontinent to the Himalaya, converge on this one temple on the banks of the Bagmati River in Kathmandu. And the name of the temple is called Pashupati. And it's an interesting name because Shiva, being this enormously powerful god, has many, many names. But the name Pashupati means, for some reason or other, protector of animals. And in fact, the whole temple grounds are covered with monkeys who will steal everything you have if you try to get by them for any kind of food. So on this one day of the year, Shivaratri, the sacred night of Lord Shiva, all these holy people converge and they try to prove their love for Shiva by doing strange things to their own bodies. And some of these things are quite horrible and bizarre. Some are very tame. There is this one sadhu, this one holy man, who's been writing down the name of Shiva over and over again for 43 years. All day, every waking hour, Shiva, 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 like a scene out of The Shining. Just the name of Shiva over and over again. He has filled tens of thousands of school composition books with the name of Shiva. There is another sadhu, another holy man, and you might not believe this, but it's quite true. Every year, he cuts off another inch of his arm to prove his love for Shiva. Another holy man has stood on one leg for more than 20 years. His other leg, completely atrophied like an old twig, is tied behind his body. And people like me, and people who are just local Nepalis, come from all over the Kathmandu Valley to see these strange holy men and throw a few coins their way while they do their different penances to the Lord Shiva. And of all these holy men, of all these sacred figures who have come from as far south as Madras and Varanasi and Bombay and the kingdom of Bhutan, all these holy men, nobody is more popular and revered, and just, he's sort of the rock star of sadhus. And they call him the penis sadhu. And some of you might have heard of this guy because he's achieved fame way beyond the boundaries of Kathmandu with his stunts. And unlike the other sadhus who are out all day doing their little thing and having coins thrown to them, the penis sadhu only comes out once for about an hour-long period on the main festival day of Shivaratri. And all these people, thousands of people, come massing around this grassy area where he's going to perform to see what he's going to do. Most of them seem to be teenage boys who are especially fascinated by these penile pranks that he plays. But I was there too, along with many other expatriates and people who live and work in Kathmandu. And this is going to make some people uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. But he gets up there, he walks out of his tent, and there's a blanket with a skull and a Shiva trident standing there, and he's wearing a little loincloth, and there's a number of props around, including a long metal rod and a pallet full of bricks. And the penis sadhu unties his loincloth and lets it drop to the ground. And what he's got there is just sort of long and thin and obviously sort of long ago been stripped of any nervous feeling, if you know what I mean. And the first thing he does with this kind of bored but intense look is he picks up this pole. At first I thought it was iron, but actually it was just a big bamboo pole about 4 feet in length. And he measures to the center and then ties a knot around it with his penis, basically. It's that flaccid and long that he can do it. And he ties the knot and the bamboo pole is just standing out there. Both ends sticking out about 4 feet, 2 feet each or 3 feet each. It comes out about that far. And then as all these teenagers are watching, as I'm watching, as all the other sadhus are watching, he begins to turn it like one of those propellers on one of those rubber band airplanes. And he turns it around and around, and you're watching his penis kink up the way those rubber bands will when you wind. Have you all had those little planes when you were kids? You just wind it and you wind it and you wind it so you don't think it can wind anymore, and the rubber band starts to double back and pinching on itself. And this is what was happening with this guy's penis. And we're watching this, and then of course at the appropriate moment, he stands there looking at the crowd with his hands on the bamboo pole, leans back and lets go, and it starts spinning around at about 100 RPMs, just making an audible whirring sound that seems to fill the... All you can hear is the from the audience, as all these teenage boys like watch in astonishment at this amazing example of dexterity by the But now it's time for the final act. He does a few other things that are sort of interesting, but personally that propeller thing was the thing that really got me going. I mean, if I could do one trick without sacrificing any function for it, that would be a trick I'd like to know. But the final thing he does is the thing that everybody is really waiting for. And this is where, with the help of an assistant who moves this huge pallet of bricks over to him, he performs this weightlifting feat that's very hard to really even believe it's possible. His assistant helps him tie a kind of a leather harness around his penis and scrotum, and from it is a descending 2 metal rings. Then there's this pallet full of bricks. It must be at least 120 pounds of bricks. And coming up from the pallet are two straps with rings on it. So grabbing the same bamboo pole he had before, he sticks it through those rings and then sticks it through the rings around his harness and just squats behind this huge pallet of bricks. And it weighs more than he does. There's no doubt about it. And the crowd is pressing in, and everybody's sort of, just, imagine me just kind of in this press, surrounded by all these 14 and 15 and 16-year-old Nepali boys, and all these other tourists, and all these Nepali, even housewives and bankers and accountants, and everybody has come out to see the yearly event of the penis sadhu doing his famous trick. Everyone's all pressing together. And then, the audience starts to chant in Nepali, Ek, Dui, Tin, Char, Panch, from 1 to 5. And on the count of 5, Panch, the penis sadhu clenches his fist and strains backwards, and impossibly, the pallet of bricks begins to lift off the ground, and the crowd surges forward, and at that very moment, I can feel my pocket being picked. I feel a hand slide into my pocket and slide out, and my hands are pinned to my side. I literally can't move. And though I'm taller than almost everyone else there, I start looking around, and if you've ever had your pocket picked in France or perhaps in Barcelona, you realize that everybody around you looks like the person who picked your pocket. There's no way to tell who did it. And there's all these kids and people are snaking in and out, trying to get a closer look, and any one of them can have my wallet in their hand, and I would never know it. And they're all just packed together. And I'm just filled with a wave of fury and violation that just permeates my entire body. And I want to sort of move and grab every one of these young Nepali kids who's standing around and turn them upside down by their legs and shake them until my wallet falls out of their pocket. There wasn't that much in the wallet. I mean, maybe there was about 150 rupees, which is about $2, and perhaps my driver's license and maybe a picture of my goddaughter. I don't know what was in the wallet, but it's just, it's just the principle of the thing. And I start realizing that if I'm going to come back, tonight, I have to somehow find some way to get these pickpockets back. And I start thinking of all these ways I can get revenge on the pickpockets. And my first thought is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mousetrap in my pocket. I'm going to put a loaded mousetrap in my pocket, and then as soon as they stick their hands in, snap, it'll just break their fingers. That'll be very satisfying. And then I thought, there's such a cultural thing in Nepal about contamination, about germs, that what I could do is line my pocket with a plastic bag and fill it with poop. And they would stick their hand in, and I would know instantly who the pickpocket was. And I'm standing there, and I sort of, everybody's sort of cheering and throwing coins, half rupee coins, where they're worth about 1,000th of a cent here in the United States, throwing these little tiny coins at the sadhu, and suddenly I have this revelation, and I realize that these pickpockets working the crowd, they work for him. That basically they're like the Artful Dodgers. And he's like, is it Fagin? Is that the guy's name in Oliver Twist? He's kind of like Fagin, and that's really where he gets his money. He has this troop of young boys roaming through the crowd, picking people's pockets at that moment that on the count of 5, he lifts that brick, that pallet of bricks with his penis. And I'm standing there thinking about that, and I'm looking up ahead of me, and there's the penis sadhu kind of kneeling down and picking up the tiny little coins that are laying on the grass all around him, and getting his little loincloth and tying it back on, with shaking hands around his ruined penis. And I'm just sort of looking at him, and suddenly all my angst and anger and feeling of violation just kind of melts away, because I realize that whatever they're paying this guy, it isn't enough.